Susanna Street in the business news today. Newly privatised Royal Mail reports a rise in pre-tax profits to £1.58 billion for the 6 months to the end of September, boosted by a large one-off gain from a pension reform. Business Secretary Vince Cable is currently being questioned by MPs about whether the Royal Mail was correctly valued. Nearly 9 million people in the UK are living with serious debt problems, according to a new report. The Money Advice Service also says very few people are making any attempt to get professional help. Talks to agree a £600 billion global trade deal are on the verge of collapse. That's according to the head of the World Trade Organization, who says leaders are avoiding tough political calls. Let's get more now on concerns about the numbers of people coping with serious debt in the UK. According to today's survey from the government's backed Money Advice Service, 8.8 million people in the UK consider they have serious financial issues. That's about 18% of the population. And of those, about 4 million, around half, have been struggling with debt for more than a year. But only 1.5 million people are getting the advice and support they need. The survey comes at a time when the latest figures from the Bank of England suggest that personal borrowing, including mortgages and unsecured loans, is now at £1.43 trillion. Now, that's the same level of borrowing that was reached during the pre-crisis peak in September 2008. Well, Chris May is from the Money Advice Service, and he's the report's author. Hello there, Chris.
Good morning.
There's a real geographic split, isn't there, when it comes to the amount of debt people are taking on?
There is, yeah, it's very interesting, and at this stage we haven't gone into any analysis of the data. All we have are these upfront figures. That's something we'll need to look at in more detail as time goes on. But I think from our point of view, as you mentioned, there's 7.3 million people who could benefit from debt advice who aren't seeking it at the moment. We really need to understand more why that's the case and find ways of helping them see the benefits of getting advice at an earlier stage.
And what kind of debt are we talking about?
Well, this is across the board. It goes from mortgages, rent, utility bills, credit debt, down to payday lenders. It is across the board. We see this every day. It's not one specific area.
And in your report, which areas are people taking out the most amount of debt in?
Well, our report doesn't really go into that detail. It looks more at the levels of over-indebtedness and then understanding how we can move people forward as a result. So I think one of the key issues, as I said, is about people engaging with debt advice providers, and such a large number not doing that. And what really surprised us was that 1 in 5 over-indebted people in the UK don't recognise that they have any sort of problem. Even having missed payments over the last 6 months. So that's a real concern, and we need to understand how we can help this group benefit from debt advice much earlier, or as they're not doing it at all at the moment. You
offer free advice, but do you think perhaps there's not enough information out there about which organisations people can turn to get that free advice?
I think you're absolutely right. That is a key area that needs more support, because one of the other reasons was people just don't know where to start in terms of looking at debt advice solutions. They don't know, they don't have the skills to pick the phone up to their creditors, the people they owe money to. They're really worried about what they might find at the other end and how they might be assessed. So I think there's a few concerning areas for us to look into.
Okay.
But I think, so I was going to say, in terms of where people should get advice, rather than sit there worrying about it, there's some really good free debt advice organisations out there in the UK that can provide you with help. Today they can make a difference, and they can provide it online, face-to-face, or on the phone, whichever best suits you.
OK, Chris, many thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Now, recent scandals at care homes, hospitals and banks all came to light because someone blew the whistle on wrongdoing. But more needs to be done to protect whistleblowers and give them the confidence to speak out without fear. That's according to a report published today by the Whistleblowing Commission, which makes 25 recommendations it hopes will be adopted, including proposals for a new code of practice. Cathy James is the chief executive of the whistleblowing charity Public Concern at Work. She says that recent scandals prove why these tougher rules are needed.
The inquiries look into what went wrong. Staff had always known, but there's reasons why they don't speak up, and that's because they're either fearful of the outcome, so fear of reprisal, or the sense that nothing will be done. So we're really encouraging organisations to do more to make sure that the whistleblowing arrangements they have in place are effective. So this is a call for action for organisations, but also a call for action for governments. We would really like this code of practice to be seated in statute so that it has very strong legal standing and can be taken into account by courts and tribunals.
Cathy James from Public Concern at Work. Now, some other business stories for you now. Tesco has completed the sale of its US grocery chain, Fresh and Easy. The supermarket has sold the 150 stores to the investment company UK Pub. Compass Group, the world's biggest catering company, has reported a 9% increase in profits to £1.2 billion for the last year. The UK firm, which feeds office workers, soldiers and school children, also increased its dividend by almost 13%. And United Utilities, the UK's largest water company, says it will discount customer prices after reporting a 9% rise in half-year profits. The company said it would use part of a £75 million tax rebate to offset future price rises. Let's take a quick look at how the markets have been faring. As you can see, the Nikkei in Tokyo closed down. The FTSE 100, though, up currently, and you can see Royal Mail shares up again. That's all the business news from me for now. Back to you.
Thanks, Susanna. Let's take you back down to Westminster.